Ranger Suarez and the Phillies start off strong in Chicago. Tobias Harris comments on Sixers fans and would you rather DeAndre Swift edition, all that and much, much more on this Wednesday show of the Phaithful Phanatics show when we are back in 10 seconds. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back here on the Phaithful Fanatic Show, live on DSM-Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. Guys, first and foremost, if you are new to the channel, make sure to check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And while you're over on the Twitter page, make sure to check out the link tree in our bio. It will take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive here on the show, the best spot to do that is the YouTube link specifically. We are live here on the new DSM Philadelphia YouTube channel. So subscribe. It is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host and to be interactive. I am one half of your host this morning, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. You can find him as well at Scotty Drown. My man, happy hump day. I know it's your favorite day of the week. How are you doing?
Yeah, you are correct there. It is my favorite day of the week because it means we are more than halfway to Friday and more than halfway to the weekend, which is always a great time. But I'm doing good, man. I'm feeling good. We're approaching, an exciting time, even with, the dismal rumors from the Sixers, all the drama with the Sixers. Still an exciting time of NBA free agency coming up this week. And the Phillies are playing some good baseball, man. I know, there was some questions after that Braves 2-game stint. But they're looking good, man. You talk about handling business. You go up to Chicago and you take care of business last night. So I'm excited to talk about that. And I'm just excited to be here on the new DSM channel, man. I'm excited for what we have growing here.
Subscribe.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch the channel grow. Authentically, I guess you could say, as far as from the previous channel, it was being transitioned from a different, it was my YouTube channel.
From a former channel
to a DSM channel. So I think that messed the algorithm all up. So I'm excited for this page. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn the notifications on, so you're notified every time we go live here. But nonetheless, man, I'm excited to get into it with you. And we got a big summer ahead. I feel like we're I don't want to say we're getting out of the dog days of summer, but we are in a good spot amongst the dog days of summer, if you want to say it that way.
Well, it's interesting. Always, like, when you're podcasting and doing shows and making content, it feels like, when you think of the month of July and late June and August, all you think of, well, there's baseball on TV. So great. Like, all we get to talk about is Phillies. But that's not true when you talk about the NBA offseason, obviously the NHL offseason. We might be talking some Flyers on Friday with the NHL draft and all the moves they're making towards their rebuild. With Danny Briere and Jonesy at the helm, right? You get into late July, and then August you have training camp and hypotheticals and trades and preseason. So there's always something to talk about, not just the game that is on in front of you. But let's start with the game that was on in front of us last night, being the Phillies. They come out of Wrigley Field with a 5-1 victory to take game one of a 3-game set in Chicago last night. And again, man, the story starts and ends with Mr. Ranger Suarez himself. Scotty, he goes through 7 in the third, 1 earned run, 1 walk, I believe 4 hits. He was phenomenal, dude. Like every start, every 5th day, it feels like he outdoes his previous performance. You're going on almost 6 straight starts from Ranger Suarez, and it's becoming commonplace. It's becoming expected that Ranger Suarez delivers in a big way, man. And I think it completely not flips, but it definitely helps define this rotation, especially when your top 2 don't always consistently have their best stuff in a season in Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. The fact that your number 3 or 4 guy is pitching like your ace for a month and a half straight is a pretty goddamn big deal, man. I saw a stat last night or this morning after the start last night, Scotty. It's not just like the last 6 starts. It's not just last postseason. Since Ranger Suarez has made his first start in a Phillies uniform. It includes starts, it includes relieving, obviously playoff run in October last year. He's got an ERA of like sub 2.7, like over his entire career. Like he is quietly the most consistent, calming, relaxed, most productive Phillies pitcher.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. So last night starts and ends with his dealing. He was great. He set the tone from the jump. Obviously, it helps that the Phillies are able to crack a run across the scoreboard in the first inning, get him a little bit of wiggle room and a little bit of comfortability out there to settle in. But he was phenomenal.
Yeah, no, to kind of ride your point there, you think back to the World Series run in the postseason last October.
Right, when he's asked to do something completely different.
Right. Asked to do something completely different. And yet, even when he would come in those spots, he was still this calming presence. And it takes me back to that. Because you look at it right now and it's like, who do you trust, in that group of pitching? Who do you trust the most right now? And it has to be Ranger Suarez, between him and Zach Wheeler, right? As Zach Wheeler being your number one ace. But I think that speaks to what Ranger Suarez is doing here. You mentioned the numbers, but like this has got to be the best we've ever seen him, right? Like he's wowed us in the past. Like even last season, during some of his starts throughout the regular season, he wowed us, and we're like, oh, this guy can be a number 3, a number 4, maybe a number 5 in the pitching rotation. But he's looking like a legitimate number 3 now, and you could even make some arguments that he's making his move up to number 2 at some point, given the inconsistencies with Nola. Now, obviously, I don't want to jump the gun on Ranger, by declaring that out front, because he still has to put together some more consistent starts. He obviously got off to a rocky start at the beginning of his tenure this season, just coming off of the injury. So we got to give him a little bit more time, get adjusted. But man, it is refreshing to see that right now the Phillies, one of their strengths is their pitching staff. And it has really showed in the last few weeks against some of the tougher competition. Now, you look at the Cubs. The interesting thing with the Cubs last night, I'm sitting there watching Cody Bellinger, and I know there's been some rumors about him being on the move, and I'm wondering, is that a guy that you go after before the trade deadline? Is that a team that will sell before the trade deadline? That's to be seen, to be determined. But to get back to the Phillies, Brandon Marsh, you texted me about him last night. He's been insane the last 6 games. He's 12 for 20 over his last 6, and I believe that was coming off of his worst patch of the season. Yeah, his biggest slump of the season after started so hot. So it's good to see him get back on the shrine. You saw Clemens get back on the grind last night as well.
Hustle double.
Yeah, a hustle double, and that broke his 0 for 17 streak that he was on. So with that being said, you look around this batting lineup, and the other guys, they took care of business last night, man. They gave the Phillies a foot ahead. Now Schwarber got it started. Let's give credit where it's due, because 2
hits, neither a home run.
Right. And he's been getting, I've been listening to 97.5 on the way to the gym more often lately, and he's been getting ripped up on 97.5, man, in that leadoff spot. There's a lot of people that are unhappy with him in that spot. But as you mentioned, he gets to the home base. He gets a run in the first inning last night. And that ultimately, anytime you can get some runs in the first inning, that's going to help you out a lot from a confidence standpoint.
Well,
so,
Scotty, there was a Twitter thread suggesting that the Phillies could potentially move Kyle Schwarber at the trade deadline and get out from this awful contract they signed him to.
Awful. Wow.
They signed him to what? 4 years, 80 million or
awful contract,
100 million, whatever it was.
That is interesting.
Fans are just never happy enough, man. Like, you can be upset with the fact that he's batting 180 and he's your leadoff hitter, and you don't like that fit. You wish Rob would do something else. That's all well and good. But to suggest that Kyle Schwarber has somehow been a letdown since he come here. Well, let's think about this. A, he is the bona fide bona fide leader of this clubhouse.
Yeah.
The leader of the team
Yeah.
that's coming off a World Series appearance, okay?
Yeah.
He led the NL in home runs last year. He hit 46 bombs in that precious leadoff spot that all of you covet so much. He has over 20, or he's at 20 so far in June this season. The average is down. It's bad. It's not pretty to watch at times. It's not pretty to watch when he goes 0 for his last 19 at the box. I'm with you. But when Rob made that move, since he's made that move, basically since the start of June, the Phillies are playing their best ball. They're 16-5. His OPS, his average isn't good, but his OPS has been really good. And what some fans fail to recognize, man, is they all their minds immediately go to the fact that he only hits solo home runs in the leadoff spot. And if you just moved him to the 4 or 5, there'd be runners on in front of him, man. No. Kyle Schwarber gets that home run tally up because he sees the most pitches and gets the most at-bats and gets the most attempts to hit those home runs at the leadoff spot. If you diminish those attempts by 4 or 5 slots in the lineup, those numbers are going to decrease as well. And I promise you that average ain't going to come up. So now you're talking about your 5-hole hitter hitting $180 with a third of the home runs he has, half of the home runs he has right now. Yeah. Because he's not people just think, man, well, he would hit so many more 3-run home runs. He'd hit a few because he'd have some opportunities. But if you think he's still going to hit 46 home runs in the 5-hole, you're out of your goddamn mind. It's not going to work like that. So real quick, the Ranger Suarez stat that I threw out to you, that's since the start of the 2021 season. So since the start of 2021, he's pitched 327 innings. He's got a 2.72 ERA. So he has been absolutely phenomenal. He's got a career ERA of just over a 3.1. He has been the man. We hope to see that continue. You bring up the other guys, Brandon Marsh, Cody Clemens. They're doing the bullpen. Obviously, Kimbrel's been great. Soto strikes out 2, shows some energy. Everyone's been great. But the top of this lineup, the heart of this lineup, is still struggling to hit with runners in scoring position and drive runners in. Turner, although Turner's turning it around, he's not coming through with runners in scoring position. Bryce has been fine. Bryce has been good. The power numbers aren't there. He's not driving runners in. Nick, obviously, has been great. He drove one in last night, but, the middle of this lineup is struggling a little bit with runners in scoring position. But guess what? That's the calming part to me. I know that sounds weird. I know it sounds weird to say because
room to grow.
I expect so much more from the middle of this lineup and the guys like Turner and Harper and JT and Short to come up big as the season progresses and, knock on wood, hopefully you get into the postseason. So to me, this other stuff, the other guys, the bullpen, the starters over the last month and a half, that's the jelly. That's the confidence right now. Because if you're worried about Bryce Harper and Trey Turner hitting in the playoffs, I'm not with you. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No,
all this other stuff is a major positive to me, even when the big guys aren't coming up with runners in scoring position, because I know and expect that they're going to.
It's honestly the same thing for Turner, for Bryce, and even for Schwarber for me. You think about Schwarber and moving him around the lineup, doing this, doing that. You just keep this guy where you've had him in his most successful spots.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And once you get to the postseason, that's what it's all about, right? Like you do have to win games to get there, but once you get there, you just need him to be hot. That's what you want. That's what you're hoping, right? Is that Kyle Schwarber gets hot in the month of October. So I think keeping him in his comfortable spot, like you said, is the move. The Bryce Harper thing, it's been talked about a lot. He's only had 3 home runs since returning. But it's Bryce, right? Like you're not going to sit here and worry about Bryce.
Right. You returned too early. Clearly came back too soon. Stop.
He's got to work through the kinks. I mean, not to
First
say
of
he
all,
came back too early. He has to get back into game form, right?
first of all,
So
he's hitting almost 290. Like he's hitting over 280. Like, yeah, the power numbers aren't there yet. You would expect the second half of the season, those climb.
exactly, just by the law of averages. So I'm with you, man. They're finding ways to win, and maybe it's not the way people want them to be winning, but that's fine.
Yeah,
They're
that's
getting
great.
wins. Like,
What you just said is exactly what I was trying to say. They're winning
yeah,
ball games. They're heating up as a team, but the guys you would expect to do it, the guys that carried them in the postseason,
exactly.
aren't there yet. And that's the confidence builder in me.
Yeah, because those guys are going to come around.
Yes. And if you get those guys to come around eventually, which they will, and you combine that with what you're getting from these starters, again, I know every night's not going to be perfect, but if you combine that a majority of the time with these starters and this bullpen, and Brandon Marsh stays hot at the bottom end of this lineup, Bryson Stott stays consistent in the 6 or 7 hole. Well, I mean, my God, the ceiling for this team again is championship level.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, man. And you even look at, so you talked about the players that you count on stepping up in the near future before you get to the playoffs, of course. But it also, as we mentioned, the other guys, they're the guys that get to fine tune what they're doing right now and get themselves ready for their new roles, right? Like Castellanos, we didn't see this Castellanos in the postseason last year, so that's
if
a
Nick
bonus.
Castellanos does not make the All-Star game,
yeah,
it's going to be a crime.
Yeah, and he deserves it, man. Like, after a tumultuous season last year of, his first season in Philly obviously didn't go the way that he would want it to go, that anybody would want it to go,
Right.
obviously, with that type of money and that caliber player. But he's been arguably the best player on the Phillies this season from a batting standpoint, man. You look at the numbers, it's kind of ridiculous. And you just have to be happy for him. But we got to make sure this guy gets into the All-Star game. Let me ask you this. Is the MLB, is it majority fan vote like every other All-Star game?
Kyle, you would know better than me on this one. I believe so. So I believe I already saw something that Nick is not like voted in right now, that the MLB can vote him in still. So I think that's what it is. I think it starts majority fan, and then it actually might be the starting lineups, if I'm correct. And then it's the rest of he said it's almost all fan vote. And then I think the MLB or the managers or whoever of those teams
vote on reserves,
vote on a couple of reserves or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, he's leading the Phillies in hits right now by 5. Leading them in what? RBIs too? No, Bohm leads in RBIs by 2. He's second.
Scotty, this is the type of year he's having, bro. Like he's hitting 312, right?
312,
which is ridiculous. But then I look over, he's almost got 100 hits already.
Yeah, 93 hits.
Bro, Mookie Betts has 75. Like Mookie Betts, one of the game's best players.
Betts. Yeah, like I
75.
I had to let that establish in my head for a second. Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I'm looking.
Who do you think out of these out of the Phillies players right now, who are the guys that you would pinpoint as all-star worthy?
All-stars?
Castellanos.
I mean, I know Bryce is getting voted in.
It's popular.
He wouldn't be, an all-star to me in terms of play. Castellanos would definitely have to be in. Bryson Stott would be in for me, dude. Like, what is he hitting right now?
The monster.
Let me see.
294.
Right. 294, 88 hits, 13 stolen bases. Bryson Stott in terms of production would be in for me. Kimbrel would be in for me. Yeah. Alvarado would be in for me. Yep, I agree. I think I think Kimbrel's been stellar enough. I know the ERA stinks, but again, I think that's just so inflated from earlier on in the season. That's probably it. It's Bryce, Ranger just came back, right? So not enough workload really to get him in.
Yeah.
I think the Singh kind of thing with Bryce, and then you add in the lack of power numbers. I love that he's going to be in. I just, from a production standpoint, he wouldn't be. JT's been too hot and cold to be in, even though he's the best at his position. Wheeler and Nola haven't been consistent enough, obviously. So yeah, I would say exactly what Kata has, and I would probably add Craig Kimbrell. Probably.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's interesting, man. That's a good thing though when you pinpoint those 4 players as your all-star picks based on production, right? And that speaks to what we've been saying throughout the first 20 minutes of this show about the Phillies is, right now, obviously the big names, they're not playing their top baseball, right? And I mean, aside from
it's weird, they're actually all playing pretty well. I mean, Turner's actually turning it around.
Playing their top tier baseball, right?
Like when
if
it's
they
weird,
they'd
like
be blowing the roof off of these teams.
Turner feels hot, and then all of a sudden he'll come up with second and third and 1 out, and he'll swing at a ball in the dirt and strike out.
And then have an error.
You know what I mean?
He had an error.
Bryce will put a good swing on a ball that bat before, and he'll come up with first and second, no outs, and ground into a double. It's just weird timing with them right now. But again, they're all, like, you expect all of them to be fine and show up when it matters most. And that's why the pitching and the bullpen and the other guys like Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott are so damn important moving forward, because if you can get that kind of meeting point where the stars and those other guys meet and are heating up together, now you're really building something.
Yeah. This is it. This is it right here.
I forget what the numbers were. The runners scoring position numbers are still not good. It's
2 for 6. I think I saw. Yeah, 2 for 6. Turner was 1 for 3. Harper 0 for 1. Castellanos 1 for 1. Schwarber 0 for 1.
Castellanos, all-star. Well, let's move on, man.
Yes,
22
sir.
minutes on the Titans, did not expect that, but it is a nice win. They're back at Wrigley tonight. Hopefully, this again somehow that caught me so off guard last night. Like it just got to Chicago. I'm so confused by what the hell is going on. But they played last night. No reason. I don't see why it would get worse potentially there today. Who the hell knows? Hopefully they
never know.
Let's move on to our beloved Philadelphia 76ers.
Beloved, that is a choice term.
So, George Niang tweeted at you. Tobias Harris made comments about casual Sixers fans. PJ Tucker comes to his defense on social media almost. Is this team becoming somewhat unlikable in the offseason?
Oh, wow, man. It's a great question to start this segment with, because I didn't expect it. But yeah, I think they're becoming very, very unlikable. I mean, you could even go back to the end of Game 7 when Joel Embiid is laughing with Jason Tatum. And then James Harden is, doing all of these, putting all of this smoke out here, causing all of this drama this offseason. And now you add in the other guys. I swear, right now, Tyrese Maxey is like the only guy that I like. D-Melt, I like him. But he missed those 3 wide open threes in Game 6. I'm not forgetting that shit. So, it's like they don't understand why Sixers fans are
no self-awareness
and tired.
It's like Doc Rivers is still in the room. Like he rubbed off so much.
That's what it is, right? Like it feels like Doc Rivers has not left. There's no accountability there, right?
Listen. Okay. When it comes to Tobias Harris's comments specifically, those were the most public, those were the most direct, right? He's not wrong in a sense. There are casual Sixer fans out there that have been screaming about him since the moment he signed the contract and do underrate him as a player in itself when you strip away the contract. There are fans that would trade him for anything. The timing of this quote pisses me off, though, not only because you were a second-round exit again, but for the fact that now the noise is even louder. The smoke is even thicker surrounding a Tobias Harris trade rumor because more of the fan base, like you and I, are in on it now. And it's almost like he's not just addressing casual Sixers fans. It's like it's towards a majority of the fan base because it's any Sixer fan that wants him traded. That's what that comment felt like to me.
Yeah.
Some fans were like, oh, Tobias has a person, blah, blah, blah. No, it felt like he's hearing the rumors, like the walls are closing in on him with this fan base, and he tried to address it as casual Sixers fans, but really meaning anybody that wants him traded would trade me for a box of crumble cookies.
Yeah.
How about you don't score 2 points in a game 6 on your home court? How about that, bro?
Yeah. Yeah. And
how about that assassin scorer that daddy has to come out and address his son as? But then I got to watch a highlight clip of you catching an oop from Harden 2 inches from the rim and throwing it off the glass for a basket the other way. There's no self-awareness.
No.
We would not want you traded if there was any improvement from the team to get out of the second round. If you didn't score 2 points in a closeout game on your own floor in 42 minutes of play. Are you joking, dude?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. It's funny. It's simply funny. It's one of those situations where the old-natured Philly fan wanted to come out of me and say, just shut your mouth.
Seriously.
Like, shut your mouth. Like, you lost in the second round again. All of them, shut your mouths. Like, I don't need to hear from you guys right now. Like, the George Niang thing.
Spent hundreds and thousands of dollars for game 6 to go watch you.
Yeah, those fans,
and that's
right?
What you put out on the floor.
The George Niang thing, right? It's like you're wasting your time tweeting at me, and I'm not the first.
You didn't tag anybody. You didn't tag him. You didn't tag the Sixers.
I didn't call him out as shade. I didn't talk about his game in a negative manner. I just said I don't understand why the Sixers are signing Georges Niang back. It's redundant. It's going in a similar direction that you've gone in the past. And he takes it personal, calls me an internet average GM.
Then deletes
it's
it.
Like, dude, like you're so like confused that you wanted to go and tweet that. You felt so built up to tweet that at me and then delete it. Right. And mind you, I took the high road because at the end of the day, I'm going to keep it professional with professionals. But at the end of the day, why are you worried about what I'm saying on Twitter? You should be like, it's so fun. It's like I'm trolling, but you should be in the gym. It's summer. If you're not on vacation enjoying yourself, you should be in the gym, right? For Tobias Harris, the funny thing about him, and like you said, what he said isn't necessarily untrue. The numbers are there. 39% from 3. He shoots 4 3-pointers a game, man. Like, come on. He shoots 4 3-pointers a game. You're not a high-volume 3-point shooter, so that stat is basically irrelevant. This is the stuff I'm talking about. And the thing is with Tobias Harris, you can point to those numbers, the 14.7 points per game. You can point to that shit. That's fine. You can point to the percentages. That's fine. What is the percentage when we're in game 6 and we need a fucking bucket to win the game? Like, what is the percentage then, Tobias? Where is the assassin scorer? Like you said, 2 points in a game 6 when you're ready to close out the Boston Celtics. Not another team, the Boston Celtics. It's the Boston Celtics that you're about to close out, and you shrivel up like a little pair of nuts in some cold water. It's really wild. It's wild to hear these guys talk. PJ Tucker, he took it to another level, and I tweeted about it right before I hopped on here, man. Read the goddamn room. Seriously. Read the room, bro. Because PJ Tucker, you're not in a position to tell somebody else that they played well last year because you didn't. You didn't get us out of the second round either. And that's what's killing me with this whole situation, man. It's like, sure, yes, fans are overreacting when they say they want to trade Tobias for, TJ McConnell and Daniel Tice. But when you're talking about these other packages that notable content creators are making and saying, yes, this would make the Sixers better. No, they're not casual fans, bro. They're watching all 82 of your games, including the 20 to 30 where you completely disappear including the playoffs. So it's funny, man. I've tried to be like cordial with Tobias Harris too, but it's to the point. It's like I like the dude as a person. I even admire the way he can handle himself to an extent. But once again, just read the goddamn room. And then the marketing plug, right? The crumble cookie can, like, that's corny.
Yeah.
That's corny. Everybody's up in arms about it. They think that's so cool and smart. I think it's really, really corny. I really do. To make a joke out of Sixers fans' pain. The fact that Sixers fans take the game serious. They take the sport serious. They want their team to win. We sat here, man, and you know why it really rubs me the wrong way, and I'm sure it does the same thing to you, because we sat here through the postseason and rode with these guys all the way. We rode all the way to Game 7 in Boston, and we watched them lay down on the court and lose in Game 7, and they just expect us to be cool and come out and just rock the Tobias jersey, right, to the games. And
that's my thing. Like,
points. Like, no, man, like, we're fed up. We're tired. We're exhausted.
What leg do they have to stand on right now where they feel like they can come across as they've accomplished something and they don't know what this fan base is talking about, as if they're all receiving this undeserved blame and criticism for last year? But unless you're PJ Tucker, right, or DeAnthony Melton, this isn't just last year. So for Tobias Harris, this is a culmination of the last 4 years, 3 years, whatever the hell it's been since you've been here. The Joel Embiid era, 5, 6 years. That's what this is. It's the breaking point, because it's the breaking point for guys like you and me. So those casual fans again that he's addressing, yes, they've been out there. And they've wanted him gone. And Kata's been tweeting Tobias since the day he signed his contract. And you and I always disagreed with it. That's the problem I have when you come out and make those generalizations. Because guess what, man? George Niang all of a sudden sees that tweet. But how about any of the tweets, any of these morning shows, any of the 70 plus pregame lives we did night in and night out last year, where you and I spoke so highly of this team and how they're different than previous years, and how Tobias Harris deserves credit and this guy deserves credit and they're great and blah, blah, blah. And then we got smacked in the mouth with reality. And the reality is this team wasn't good enough again. And now they want to take on this woe it's me, the fans are assholes type of personality like we used to see with guys like Jalen Reagor on social media. How did that work out, bro? If you show up, we'll show up. We'll have your back. We'll be happy. We'll back you. But when you score 2 goddamn points in a Game 6 on your home floor to close out the Boston Celtics, after everything that's transpired over the last 3 years of second round exits and first round sweeps in the bubble, we're tired of it. So again, man, those crumble cookies we would trade you for, Tobias Harris, man, last year I wouldn't have traded you for Buddy Hield. You're goddamn right I'd trade your ass for Buddy Hield right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Scored single digits in 3 of the 7 games against Boston. Assassin score. Like, it is like the numbers are there. Like, you wanted to point out the numbers, Tobias. We'll point out the numbers that matter. In the 3 games in this series, he scored single digits, including the 2-point game in Game 6 on your home floor when you're ready to close out the Boston Celtics and end the series. Go to the Eastern Conference Finals and you shrivel up, man. The thing with George Niang that's funny as well, man. You talked about him seeing basically all the negative stuff, but you didn't care about the positive.
Hey George,
stuff
how about when you grabbed
you up?
How about you grabbed Jaylen Brown's leg when you're sitting on the bench? You idiot.
Yeah, that's a smart play. That's an average NBA player play, right? Like that's where I can be petty at this point, because you didn't do your job and you're coming on Twitter to talk about what my job is. Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself. He's on Twitter acting like he's Kevin Durant or something. Kevin Durant can go in comments and talk to fans and talk down on them because he is a Hall of Fame NBA player.
Around when he did that, bro.
Like, yeah, he
For no
absolutely
reason.
did because it's stupid. It's stupid. And that lets you know the Celtics were in his head, right? They got into his head, made him do things that you just don't do on a basketball court, quite honestly. And yeah, I'm over George Niang, man. I'm over like the lack of accountability. It almost feels like this Harden shit coming back now. Like I'm like turning the cheek on Harden to an extent too, because it's like he's coming back to this environment. So what is he going to be in this environment? It's not like he's coming to an environment where it's a bunch of winners focused on winning. He's coming back to this environment where it's a bunch of like pity partying and feel sorry for us. We're good NBA players. Tobias Harris, right? He had a great season, PJ. He had his lowest point total per game since 2013 and 14 with the Orlando Magic. Like, he had a great season. Like, are we joking? He was efficient, sure, because he didn't have massive amounts of volume. That's fine. But when he's in the big games, man, missing bunny layups, short mid-range jump shots, that's supposed to be his crumble cookie of his game, right? That's supposed to be his move. And can't do that either. Airballing from the three-point line.
Hesitating from three when he's wide.
I remember all of these things, man. I can see the air balls in these big moments where you're like, if Tobias hits this three, the game is back.
I'm pretty sure he hit the side of the backboard as well. I think I was at your house, and it was like to end the quarter or something, and he hit the side of the backboard from a corner three.
On Joel's MVP night, you're out here throwing the ball over the rim, man.
The funniest thing about it, before we move on, the most ironic thing about it is all we have and all we say are opinions. There was no disrespect in your tweet that George Niang felt the need to comment on. Yeah, I'm sure there are fans in Tobias Harris's Instagram and Twitter DMs and, being disrespectful and calling him names. Sure. That's ridiculous. That's disgusting. Those are the people you can address. Again, I don't think he did that. I think he hears all the trade rumors and he decided to address the fan base, everyone that wants him traded, as a casual fan, because we don't see his value as a basketball player.
Traded 4 times.
My problem is this. my problem
they casuals too.
All we're saying about George Niang not returning, we never said we didn't think George Niang was a good fit on last year's team or didn't have a role. With Nick Nurse as the coach, we would prefer longer, faster, more athletic wings. There's no disrespect, but they'll take it as disrespect. Tobias Harris, we didn't want to trade you the last 3 years, bro. But now I'm open to it because for 3 straight years, I've got the same ending to a movie. So I'm looking for something different. There's no disrespect. But you guys all felt the need because your ego was hurt. Because your character was being judged, that you felt the need to come out and address Sixers fans publicly. This was just not the offseason to do that. This was not the offseason to address Sixers fans.
It's not. And, it's funny, man. The George Niang, one last thing about that is, the main part of that tweet that I put out there was the fact that I wanted the Sixers to re-sign Jalen McDaniels. That was the big point of the tweet, because the tweet that I was quoting was Michael KB saying, the Sixers, it looks like McDaniels is going to get some bids that are going to outbid the Sixers. And George Niang comments that on it. And so it's like, do you not want the Sixers to sign Jalen McDaniels so that they can sign you? Like, it's funny, man, because you're disrespecting your own teammate at that point just by being vocal in this situation.
Right.
Man, I'm with you, bro. I don't know what's going on in their minds to where like they think that this, like, we are 1 year removed. Like, I truly believe this, and I think Tim Legler was talking about it on ESPN as well, which, mind you, ESPN, a bunch of talking heads, but when they're talking about doomsday in Philadelphia, it's just right around the corner. Like, and what he was saying is, bringing Harden back is going to drive Embiid out of Philadelphia. I'm not going to go that far and say that Harden's going to be the driving force, but losing again next season will be the driving force to make him want to leave Philadelphia.
And I saw people like Philly fans, Sixers fans trying to crush Legler on Twitter yesterday after that clip was released, and
Legler's one of the
maybe
best
you don't agree with
basketball
the
heads on
message, like you
ESPN.
just said. Maybe you don't agree that that'll happen with Joel at the end of the day, whatever. But everything he said within that message was 110% factual.
Yeah. Yeah.
James Harden's floor in the postseason, James Harden, when he's not on, these were the numbers, factual. When James Harden isn't on, he can't turn it around like Tatum did in game 6, factual. When James Harden isn't on, he checks out and it makes Joel Embiid's body language bad, factual. Go watch the goddamn tape. When Harden checks out and Embiid checks out, it happened multiple times last year. So don't look me in my face because it's a guy on ESPN and he hurt your feelings because you're a Sixers fan. It's the truth.
It's the truth. Yeah. Tim Legler is one of the top basketball minds on ESPN, right, and quite honestly, surrounding the NBA as far as analyzing it. And it's just funny because all last season you would hear the Philly fans agreeing with Tim Legler because he was hyping up the duo of Harden and Embiid. But to be transparent, he has never been on that Harden train. He does not believe in James Harden, and kudos to him for keeping consistency because he's just sticking true to that message. He doesn't believe that Harden is that guy that will get you over the hump. And to his point, what's that mean? It means it's going to take a Super Saiyan effort from Joel Embiid, right? And at the end of the day, we don't know if that's enough right now. It's crazy, man.
Maybe Tobias saw the rumors about what Daryl was asking for and like that the Sixers were content with keeping him. And he was like, let me find a way to get myself traded to make those comments. Because it's like Daryl Morey has the next 48 to 72 hours to change the tone a little bit in the city.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because the players are not helping him out. And so far, he hasn't helped himself out. I just can't envision a world. Again, I love the Nick Nurse hire. I am somewhat intrigued by what a new coach and new offensive mind could do with an Embiid Harden duo differently than what Doc was able to do and Maxey, etc. I cannot envision a world in which the Sixers team can essentially run it back.
No.
And it works out.
No.
There's not a world,
no,
Scotty.
No. I don't see it, man. Because at the end of the day, if you want Embiid to be healthy in the playoffs, we have to find ways to win games without him in the regular season, right? Like we got to take the load off of his legs. The MVP, that should not even be in a thought.
That's done with now, brother.
Out the door. So to that point, you need to surround this team. And the thing is, where did they go, right? Like all the talk, the thing that concerns me, man, and maybe it's a good thing that Morey isn't having these rumors leaked out and that everybody doesn't know the Sixers' hand and what they're trying to do this offseason, but everything has revolved around bringing the players back that were in the building, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, to put it into perspective, why? Like, I get what everybody's saying, right? Everybody will respond to my tweet. They'll say, George Niang hits threes. He's a good player to be on the Sixers. I get that he hits threes, guys. Like, I understand it. I listened to Kate Scott say bang, bang, George Niang all season last year. Like, I watched the same games you guys did. It's not about that. It's about allocating that money that you could spend on George Niang, that roster spot that you could spend on George Niang, and put that on somebody else that can contribute more in the postseason. That's the big thing. I don't need George Niang taking up a roster spot for the regular season when he might win you 1 or 2 or 3 regular season games with 4 to 5 3-pointers that he makes in that game, and it's fucking meaningless. Like, I need somebody that is going to be reliable in the postseason. So when I'm looking at Jalen McDaniels and you're telling me that he's going out the door, but this whole time we've been talking about bringing George Niang back, that doesn't make sense to me. And I get that they're not mutually exclusive, bringing them both back. But when you're deciding between the two, I think the decision is clear as far as turning the page and going in a new direction. And that's towards athleticism, length, and energy. And it's what I want the Sixers to do. And it's like they're just refusing, man. Let me ask you this. when you think about George Niang and Daniel House, what does one provide that the other doesn't? Like, what does George Niang provide that Daniel House doesn't? A more consistent shot, I would say, right? He's more efficient within his three-point shooting. But maybe if Daniel House gets those George Niang minutes last regular season, maybe his shot looks a little bit better once we get to the postseason. Because he obviously is better in other areas. He's better at hustling. He's better on defense. He's better at getting out on the break and finishing layups, getting to the free throw line. He's better in a lot more areas than George Niang, except for that three-point line, which maybe if you stick him in the corner, maybe he can hit 3 threes a game. Like, I'm looking at Daniel House and I'm looking at Georges Niang, and it looks redundant to me. They're, middling size power forwards, and they're not the most athletic. They're there to shoot threes and space the floor. Add something different to that group. You already have a bunch of thick forwards, man. Like, I don't get it. Like PJ Tucker is thick. Tobias Harris is thick. Even down to Daniel House. These guys are not the lengthy, athletic type of wings that you see, prototypical wings in the NBA these days. And that's what bothers me. You have one in your building in Jalen McDaniels. There were people that thought Matisse Thybulle was one. I don't really care what you think of Matisse Thybulle, but trading him mid-season,
trading him,
for a guy that's going to walk.
I texted you that. You know how I felt about Matisse Thybulle's time here. You know how I feel about second-round picks in general. But to package Matisse Thybulle and a borderline end of the first-round pick for a guy, for a half-year rental who barely saw the floor in the second round of the playoffs, is absolutely horrendously bad business.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. It's an indictment on Daryl Morey. And I'll tell you what,
margins
to wrap this up, man. You're looking at those guys, and I'm looking at Daryl Morey because you brought up a great point of why it seems like we're just bringing it, like we're just content with bringing back the same guys that were in this building. My question to that would be why? Why was Doc Rivers removed so quickly then? Because to me, you started off the offseason perfectly.
Great.
You were addressing that change was needed. Doc Rivers had to go. Then you bring in our number one choice to replace him. Then you add 2 key pieces to that bench and player development and to attract free. I loved every coaching decision they made to start this offseason. But now you're content with running the roster back. And that rubs me the wrong way. Because was coaching an issue? 110%. Nobody's arguing with you. Was coaching the issue?
No.
Has coaching been the issue in any series loss? Mark Henry Jr. hates Doc Rivers. Love Mark. Points out a great point. Maybe the Atlanta series.
Maybe.
From an analytic standpoint of running Ben with the white and not learning his lesson. But maybe the Atlanta series. But even then, it's on the players not to blow a 25-point lead at home in a Game 5.
Because the only thing that Doc could have done in that Atlanta series is bench Ben Simmons.
Right. Or really the only thing. Howard out there.
Because he was your backup the whole year. Once he's getting sent to the free throw line and getting mentally disturbed by the Hackabin, at that point, yes, you can make that decision to insert somebody else into his role and just take him out of the game. Right. But once again, you're asking Doc Rivers to take his franchise cornerstone out of the game. Yeah. That's a mental breakdown from Ben Simmons. Absolutely. That's a problem. That's the problem.
But that's the only one where you could say coaching maybe really affected an entire series and game whatever. But coaching's never been the issue for a 76er second round exit. So to suggest that Doc is the scapegoat, which I'm happy he's gone, I'm more than excited that Nick Nurse is in the building. To just run this roster back it's insanity.
Because I think what we're trying to say is ultimately, yes, Doc Rivers was a problem as the head coach.
And you did the right thing
The
by
offense
relieving
was
that
a
problem.
problem. The scheme was a problem, but the Sixers did have the opportunities to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they have not been able to take advantage of them despite the coaching. They've had the opportunities even with Doc Rivers as head coach.
Right.
So from that perspective, maybe that's what they're thinking.
Right.
Why
I
not
mean,
fill the margin?
sure. I mean,
Why
I
not
guess.
fill the margins, though? I don't
Yeah,
understand
exactly.
Daryl Morey's approach. Like, are you
That's
waiting
my
to
thing,
trade
man.
Tobias for a star? Because that's the wrong move, man.
Right.
You need role players. It's clear as day in today's NBA. You saw the teams in the playoffs. We didn't lose to this. Sure, down the stretch, Jason Tatum going 0 for 13 in that game 6 or whatever to start that game. And down the stretch, he hits all these three-pointers to close out the Sixers and then scores 51 in game 7. Sure. But there were other games in that series where guys like Marcus Smart won you games. Malcolm Brogdon won you games. Derek White won them games. Al Horford won them games. Grant Williams gave them great contributions, guarded Embiid at times. These are the things that we're looking for. It can't just be in the starting lineup,
So
man.
let me ask you a question, right? Because that's the way I viewed it as well. And it's the way I viewed it after the Hawks series, really, where it was like
Kevin Huerter.
They need to bring back. I was sitting there like they need to bring in 3 or 4 new pieces. And they did that, right? D-Melt, we thought Trez was going to be a piece, whatever. Some worked out. Some new pieces worked out. Some really didn't. Is there a world? Because, again, I don't know the new CBA. I don't know what the Sixers even have opened up. Like, if they didn't trade Tobias, right, and you wanted to run back to starting 5, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. But then you need a bench that can undoubtedly contribute. Yeah. So that means no George Niang.
Yeah.
Melton. And is there a world where they can sign 3 new guys just off the free agent mark? Like, that's the thing I'm struggling with because I don't see it, man. And Springer apparently is going to get a role next year, which, again, hopefully that works out. But if you're running that back this starting 5, you are ultimately suggesting you're running back the whole team.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. We'll see how it all breaks down, obviously, when free agency starts, because
James Harden, opt into your player option.
Yeah, I mean, if he opts into that
you and I brought that up just like as a hypothetical. Like, why not before?
Yeah.
Maybe
if you're not getting the money that you want this offseason, why not just opt in,
opt in, and then sign a 2-year extension with
win the championship next year, right? Or sign a 2-year extension with another option, whatever you want to do. But the thing is, you look around the league, right? Guy like Christian Wood, for example. It's a guy that some people have tagged with the Sixers. He's a risk. At the end of the day, he's a risk. He's been proven to be a bad locker room guy. So I don't know if that's a guy that we really want to bring in, but he would be low cost because of that risk. Dylan Brooks even, right? I don't know if his costs will be as low as people think, just because it does seem like he has interests out there. But let's just use Christian Wood as that example. Do you give your mid-level exception to him? Probably not, right? Like I don't think I'm giving it to him. I would give it to probably a wing player, some type of athletic wing player.
Yeah,
that's
again,
my
because
opinion,
then it becomes redundant. Like, do I think Christian Wood, as a basketball player on the floor, not anything in the locker room, do I think he would be a better fit than a Tobias Harris on this team? Yeah, I probably do. The size, the floor spacing, the athleticism, everything like that. But if you're keeping Tobias Harris and you have PJ Tucker and you have Paul Reed, where's Christian Wood going?
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, where is he fit in? Because he's not a guy that's going to be 13th guy or, 10th guy off the bench. He's not that guy. Then you could even look, a lot of people say, bring Seth Curry back. I don't see where that makes us better. He's a great shooter. If you bring him back, I'm not going to be angry.
Right.
Can you get him for the veteran minimum? I don't know. Like, can he get more money elsewhere? And mind you, right. Doc Rivers is not here anymore. That was his father-in-law. He's not here anymore. So is that connection still even really there? We don't know. And so these are the things that are going to play out. You have some hometown guys like Lonnie Walker. Maybe he could come back, play for less. Dante DiVincenzo, there's been rumors of him wanting to go to the Knicks with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. Why not come back to Philly and be closer to Villanova if you love it so much? He's another guy. So, like, there's guys out there where I could convince you that there's a chance they could go get him, but when you hear the rumors of them basically only being interested in their current free agents that are set to go out,
Right.
and then you think about their money situation, if they're not trading Tobias Harris, if they're signing James Harden back, where does the money come from? I think they're going to ultimately have a mid-level exception, which I think comes out to like 12, anywhere from 12 to 14 million. And then see, now it depends if they have the full mid-level exception or a partial, because the partial you get like 7 to 8 million, I think. The full MLE you get 12 to 14 million,
right, which is a
you
solid
could
player.
get a decent player for that, right?
Right.
Like, what did PJ Tucker was like the highest paid free agent last year or something, and I think he got 17 million per year. So you can get a solid player for that mid-level exception. Has to be used wisely, right? And then you're gonna have vet minimums from there, and there are plenty of vets out there that maybe they come and sign, especially if we do get Harden back. Maybe they come and sign for a chance to win a ring, if you can talk them into that. But man,
I think I saw
a
someone's
dream.
tweet as well, bro. It was a great point, like talking about how the Sixers are trying to stay under this. Well, bro, if you're bringing
Staying
back
under.
James Harden and paying James Harden,
You're worried about staying under.
you need to just go over at that point. Like,
See, and that's something else that we've never really touched on is like Josh Harris, right? Like, this guy owns multiple franchises, so it just makes you wonder, right? Like where his interests are. It just, I don't know, man. You know, an ideal, and this is maybe where we can leave it, because I don't think it's possible, but
right.
I said it last offseason. Bruce Brown, man, if you could just throw the whole mid-level exception at him. Like, Denver does not have the money to sign
Bruce
him
Brown.
back. Yeah, they do not have the money to sign him back. There's going to be somebody out there that will throw a bag at him after his playoff performances, but man, that would be a dream. That's the type of player, though, that I'm looking for, is that kind of that connector piece. If Harden's off the court, who can come in and make some plays for you, right? Facilitate. He's a playmaker at the wing spot. He can shoot the three pretty well. That's the type of stuff I'm looking for, man. A guy that is similar to PJ Tucker, but younger, a more fulfilled PJ Tucker, a glue guy.
I know.
And I don't know what form that's going to come in, if that's what they're looking for. But it seems pretty clear to me, man, what the Sixers need. They need energy. They need athleticism. They need guys who can guard. And doesn't feel like they're making those initiatives. But we're going to find out very, very soon, man.
All right, Scotty, last part of this Wednesday show. As always, we are running it back with the Would You Rather segment. We talked Phillies, we talked Sixers, so we wanted to get some Eagles talk involved today. And on the timeline, there's been a little bit of DeAndre Swift chatter on the timeline about from other Eagles fans. Shout out to Dibes. I forget who else tweeted about him off the top of my head, but just about how under the radar that trade is flowing right now across the league, and how DeAndre Swift could impact this Eagles offense behind this line and everything. So Scotty and I wanted to come on here and do a Would You Rather DeAndre Swift edition compared to other running backs around the league. So I go on PFF and I pull up their top 32 running backs heading into the 2023 season. And do you know who's not on the list, Scotty? DeAndre Swift is not in their top 32 running backs. So they made this Would You Rather pretty easy. Instead of us hand selecting 8, 9, 10 different backs throughout the league that match him a little bit, we're just going to go start from number 32 and see how high where DeAndre Swift would rank compared to this PFF list, man. So this doesn't have to take long. But let's see where we would put him, okay? At number 32, they have the new Detroit Lion, David Montgomery, former Chicago Bear. Would you rather DeAndre Swift or his replacement, David Montgomery?
David Montgomery, he's 26, 801 yards last season. I'm going to go DeAndre Swift for the versatility, man. I'm going to go for the versatility, the receiving threat out of the backfield.
I'm going to go for everything. I think he's just a better back.
Yeah. I think he's more explosive. I think he's a more talented running back.
Yep. Number 31, guy who can't stay on the field more than DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers.
Yeah. Like what? Like, yeah, DeAndre
I'm going to
Swift.
run through some of these.
Like, I don't understand. I don't even
Swift.
understand how Cam Akers is a top 32 back. Like you said, he's injured
He
more than
he was literally almost cut.
he was literally
by the
not
Rams.
even injured and not playing.
Yeah.
Like you said, almost cut. Like he wasn't injured. He was just not playing.
At number 30, free agent Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, give me Swift easily.
That
is
Swift.
Fucking nuts. Oh my god.
Number 29. Listen, these guys, they're good backs. Okay, this guy's not even a starter on AJ Dillon from Green Bay. DeAndre Swift.
I mean, this is insane. This is funny. This is very eye opening. But yes,
we bring it home.
Interesting. He's a power back. But DeAndre Swift, versatility, man, explosion. That's what I want in the Eagles offense.
We bring this one to our hometown, a little contrast from what Elliott Shore Parks was considering a running back for the number 4th or 5th option, Rashad Penny, number 28 on this list, which I'm happy that Rashad Penny is on this list.
Right. It's
I
think
on the list, our consensus in Philly is that Swift is the more dynamic run. I don't know. It's tough.
Once again, a guy that plays less than Swift, right? Like if the knock on Swift is his health, this guy plays less than him.
Right.
346 rushing yards last year. What have you done for me lately? And I'm not trying to sit here and disrespect Rashad Penny. Obviously, he's on the Eagles now. I think he can have a good season as well. But am I taking him over DeAndre Swift? No, I'm not. And once again, versatility comes into effect and availability in that case.
These next two names are going to get you. Another guy that couldn't stay on the field. Elijah Mitchell.
What? Like what? Elijah Mitchell, I'll give him credit. Like he's good when he plays, but like better than Swift?
So no, we're Elijah Mitchell's on here. CMC's at the top. AJ Dillon's on here. Aaron Jones is higher. Like, dude, it's this. I thought it was funny as well. So far, I agree. DeAndre Swift. We're going on to number 26 now. DeAndre Swift has passed these guys. This one, DeAndre Swift or Khalil Herbert from the Chicago Bears.
I'm going to go with DeAndre. I'm looking up the numbers just to see why he could possibly be on here. But he had 731, 5.7 yards per carry. I'm still taking DeAndre Swift, though. Like, I get it. I get it. But, like, is that his best season going forward? Maybe it made him comfortable with making David Montgomery expendable. But
a big thing with me with these lists is, like, the numbers matter and they tell a story. But, like, take numbers aside, who would you rather have as your running back?
Like, when you watch these guys play football.
When you watch football, who would you rather have as your running back? DeAndre Swift. It's really not all that difficult to me. Here you go. You're going to appreciate this one as your dynasty owner. DeAndre Swift or New Orleans Saint Jamal Williams.
There's people that are going to think I'm crazy because of what Jamal Williams did last year with Detroit, but I am going DeAndre Swift. Talent standpoint. Carter's right. The problem with Swift is health.
That's fair.
My problem with this list is that they got guys with worse health issues than Swift ahead of him.
And my problem with Detroit and Jamal Williams is even when he was healthy, they were still giving Jamal Williams the ball more.
Yeah, I'm taking DeAndre Swift over Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams, tough runner, touchdown machine, sure. DeAndre Swift's the better player. As simple as that.
So, listen, I'll skip around a little bit. We're up to 24 now. Obviously, once you get like higher, we're not going to take them over some of these guys. But some of these are interesting too, Scotty. Like, so I'll skip ahead a little bit. You have Miles Sanders at 23, former Eagle, obviously. Would you rather have Swift or Miles Sanders?
I think Swift has the higher upside.
I think he has the higher ceiling as well. But dude, see what I mean? Like, they have Pacheco was a solid running back for Kansas City last year. They already have Isaiah Pacheco above him.
Tough runner, but once again, man, you're having to bring Jerick McKinnon in to run your receiving downs, right? Like, that's my thing. Like, you can just keep DeAndre Swift in. I know that Swift is not going to be a 3-down back in Philadelphia. I get that. But he could be if he can stay healthy. And this is the one where your health point makes me laugh because
again, could you say that this next guy that you think he's a better running back than DeAndre Swift are? Yeah, you can make that point just off of watching if you wanted to. But if Swift isn't on this list because of injury concerns, we're assuming number 20 is Javonte Williams, a rookie who started 4 games last year and then got hurt. So, like, explain this PFF list to me.
I love Javonte Williams, man.
Yeah.
I love him. I love him. But
like you can make an argument where you think Javonte Williams is going to be a better running back than DeAndre Swift this year. I get that if they're both on the floor, both on the field. But the fact that Swift
ACL last year,
the fact that Swift couldn't make number 30 over Zeke or 31 over Cam Akers, we're assuming is his health issues. But you got these guys on the list. Like, hold on. Let me go up higher. Again, I know he had a good year, and I know Atlanta ran the shit out of the ball. He's probably not even going to start. Tyler Algier is number 17. Are you taking Tyler Algier or DeAndre Swift, Scotty?
I mean, I'm taking DeAndre Swift. That is crazy. They said 19. Is that what?
17. 17. Hold on. Damian Pierce, number 14.
14.
Rookie from Houston.
See, the thing once you get to Pierce and those type of backs, and to be fair to Pierce, right? Like, he did get a boatload of carries last year in Houston.
Yeah.
But the volume, right? Like, the volume is there for him.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to take Swift over Damian Pierce after the rookie year he had, but at the end of the day, the volume. What does DeAndre Swift look like that with those amount of carries? I mean,
no. Scotty, number 11 again. We're both high on this kid. We are, but number 11 is Breece Hall.
Tore his ACL as rookie. Didn't even finish the season as rookie year.
Like, do you see my So if all these guys are on this list, they're this high. Where's DeAndre Swift?
Right, like what? 45?
Am I missing something that he had? Like, he hasn't. I don't know. Like, they have a side note: injuries drop J.K. Dobbins and Javonte Williams. Congrats. Like, what?
J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the parameters were for this list. I know PFF can be
the fact that they're even like thinking about J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah. So that was our would you rather. Essentially, I think to the point I'm trying to get to.
I guess Swift's value has tanked. Is that where we're at? I mean, we did get him for a 4th round pick or whatever. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Like, hold on. Let me see something. So Takada's point, like, yeah, I get the injury concerns and the workload in Detroit. But Breece Hall's number 11, and Breece Hall had 80 attempts for 463 yards before getting injured. Again, I get the projection of how good we think Breece Hall is going to be, and you think he's better than DeAndre Swift? Sure, yeah, probably. But, like, if 11? He's not on the list at all because of injury, I agree. His stats aren't great. Hell, they're probably not going to be eye-popping this year either with the carousel that the Eagles are going to use at running back.
I just think when you think about what running back would you want
that's my point.
This given play, right? 3rd down and whatever, right? He can take the ball to the house, and that's what I'm looking at with DeAndre Swift. I also think, the numbers, they aren't off the page eye-popping, but he's a receiving back. Like, at the end of the day, we have to factor that in. And I think it's funny because it's similar to how when people put Jalen Hurts stats out, his passing stats, and they just totally subtract out the rushing numbers with those numbers. It's similar to that in that respect, where you have to factor that in for DeAndre Swift. He's not just a running back at the end of the day. He's a pass catching back as well. I think Gainwell, he's going to have a good season. Maybe he's the guy that, like, stays healthy out of all of them. But when I look at top-level Eagles offense, right, Eagles with their best potential in offense, that's a lineup with DeAndre Swift in the lineup. So I love Gainwell. I like Rashad Penny. We'll see what happens with him. But nonetheless, DeAndre Swift, I'm beyond excited to see what he can do behind this offensive line. The holes that are going to be created, right? And just him getting to come back to his hometown as well, right? He's from Philly. He gets to play. We saw what that did for Hassan Reddick. He had his best season as a player last season, coming back to the Philly area, being a guy from Camden. But it's interesting to see how far his values drop, because I know maybe a year and a half ago, there were talks about DeAndre Swift as a top 5 back in the NFL, right? He's on the brink. And to Cauda's point, he hasn't been able to stay healthy to pass that brink. Now, last year, I think that's the exception, man. It was one of his worst seasons. They brought in Jamal Williams, and he just didn't get the looks. He didn't get the looks last year. He wasn't that beat up last year. I have him in Dynasty. I'm locked in on DeAndre Swift week to week. It wasn't the same as the previous years where he did have great seasons. He was coming off his best season in his second year with Detroit. I'm interested to see what happens, because I think it is interesting with the Eagles running back rotation. They're going to use a committee, to your point. Is there a way that he just pops off and separates himself from that group, and it's, says, I'm the guy here. I need to be RB1, right? Like, separating himself from the group. Is there any guy in the group that will do that? I would look at DeAndre Swift and say he's the guy most probable to do that in my eyes, as far as like running away with the running back room, right? It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because I was semi-high on Gainwell coming into the season. I thought we needed to add a running back or two just to keep the room safe. But then you come in, you add Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift, and these guys are arguably better than Gainwell. Well, Rashad Penny arguably better than Gainwell at this point. I think Swift is better.
Yeah.
It's interesting, man. His value is tanked, but is it just because he went to the Eagles? Now everybody's down on him. I don't know. It's interesting. That Detroit season was weird last year. I will say that. Then they go out and draft Jahmyr Gibbs, right? So they went and replaced DeAndre Swift. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out. See how many times Swift is questionable this season. Maybe it'll give us an idea.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So my mouse died again. And I'm off the screen. I'm off the StreamYard screen. So I can't see anything. I can't see you, and I can't use my mouse. So you're going to have to end the show.
I got you. Before we check out here, Connor says, we haven't mentioned the giant killer. Yes, Boston Scott. He's a guy that I feel is he's a good guy to keep around, man. All around.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to keep 4, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think Sermon, as long as Penny is healthy, I think Sermon will be the odd man out. Maybe practice squad him or whatever. But yeah, I think they have to keep 4, given Penny and Swift's health, right? The health concerns that come along with them. You have to keep 4 in there. But yeah, that's funny, man. He's stuck on that screen.
Hold on, let me see if I got it. See,
you got it?
It says connected, but no.
No. Man, I know we wanted to get into Nolan Smith today, but maybe let's save that for Friday, because we've already gone over an hour today anyways. My man Dylan's having some technical difficulties. Nonetheless, let's go ahead in the show there, guys. Thank you to everybody that's been out there viewing. Carter, D-Rab, everybody in the comments. Thank you for all the comments throughout the show. It makes the show more fun. Hunter, I saw your comments in there as well. Sorry if I missed anybody else out there to shout out. If you're not already, hit that subscribe button on the DSM-Media Philly channel. Be sure to like the video, help that out, get that out to the community. And of course, hit the notification bell so you're notified each and every time that we go live here on DSM-Media. And before we get out of here, we definitely want to shout out our sponsors over at Manscaped. Let me Why does this always happen to me, Dylan? Why am I
Hold on.
never able to
The
find
mouse is back.
There it is. I got it.
Perfect.
And you're back just in time too.
Yeah.
I definitely want to shout out our sponsors over at manscaped.com. Be sure whenever you're heading over to manscaped.com, use promo code DSM at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Once again, use promo code DSM at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. For myself, for Dylan, that is going to be it for this episode of the Phaithful Phanatics. Until next time, Friday, we will be back for you. Once again, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn the notifications on, and we will see you guys Friday. Peace.